Hello everyone. Today I would like to just share with you some little Christmas ornaments I've put together over the last few days. I've had such a good time. I know it's early for Christmas, but why I've got the spare time to do it, I'm doing it, because the closer it gets to Christmas, the less time we seem to have. And I love making decorations every year. I make 2 to 3 or maybe 4 sometimes every year. And this year I thought, when I take my decorations out to decorate, which is usually December, the beginning of December, before I decorate, what I might do is put together all the decorations I have made that I have and show them to you, because some of them are from many years ago that you've never seen, and others are on my channel that you have seen. So I just thought that might be a fun video, and it'll be fun for me too, because I forget what I've made really. So, but anyway, I had these foam balls. I'm not quite sure the size of them. I suppose I should measure them. It doesn't really matter what the size is, does it? I mean, that's how do you measure a bauble? That says 9.5 inches around. So maybe it's like a 4.5 inch bauble, or I don't know. I don't know how they measure the baubles, so that's how round it is. And I had 4 of them left. They're just foam balls. And so I thought I would have a bit of fun playing with them. And I was using my Lavish Laces. And this is the first one I made. And this cording here is from Lavish Laces. And all I did was I started at the top here, and I ran a piece around, and then in the opposite direction I ran it one that way, and in between I put this lovely rhinestone trim. And it's actually silver rhinestone trim, but over time they all go a little bit gold, so it has that vintage kind of look to it, which I love. When I got to the end here, I ran out of the cording, the trim, and so I had a little bit of my own that was very, very similar colour. So I just put that on that part there and on the other part there, and then I put a rhinestone button. Now the rhinestone button was silver, and I didn't want it to look so brightly silver, so I used, I think it's called Caramel. It's one of these alcohol inks. And I just put a drop on, and it spread through. And I love the way that looks. It's given it a real vintage look. Around the top, I put this tiny little rhinestone trim. These little tops, I got a bag. Where are they? That's not it. Here we go. I went to the thrift store, and I found a little bag of small baubles for 50 cents. And I just used the toppers from that, because the foam balls, of course, didn't come with any toppers. So that's the first one I made. I love using the braids. I love using them. I think there's an art form called, I think it is a pessementary or something like that, using braiding and things like that. And I just love the vintage look of it. I can just see a bit of glue there that needs to come out. And these are a distance thing. I mean, they might not be absolutely perfect up close, but when they're on the Christmas tree and you see it twinkling in the lights and things, you never notice anything that's wrong with them. So this is the second one I made, and I've made these before. This has got some sequins, and it's all done with pins. I think I've done egg-shaped ones for the Christmas tree before, and this one's a round one. I use this beautiful corded trim here. I've got a little bit left here, and that's from Lavish Laces also, to section parts off. And these take quite some time to make. I'm just seeing a few glue strings there. I did use some glue behind them to keep them all in, because they are pins. And so I've put cording there, and then once again using the rhinestone trim in between the cording. A silver button, and I left this one silver because that's suited with all the pins. It doesn't look out of place at all. But you can see the rhinestone trim compared to that, it's kind of goldish, but I like the way it looks. So that's that one there. The next one I made was this one here, and I love the way it looks. These are vintage sequins, these. And I did those two sides, and I did those two sides. And then I ran out of pins. Oh, I went to 3 op shops, thrift stores, to find pins. Could not find pins. In the third one, I found some pins. I found these. I even went to like Coles and Woolworths and could not find, which are grocery stores. They had no flat, dressmaking pins. And so the following day after I found the pins, I came back to do it. And I'd ran out of these beautiful vintage sequins. And I thought, oh no, the only ones left in the bag. No, it wasn't a bag. Well, it was in a bag. These were in the same bag, and I presumed when I was doing it that they were all the same. But these are much smaller. So I have 2 segments. This one, luckily opposites. Luckily I was doing opposites. And this one, and they're slightly different. But I don't mind it because you never see really, the same sides on a Christmas tree anyway. And it adds a little bit of character. I also used on this lovely braid from Lavish Laces. It's a lovely vintage silver one. And then I used the very tiny, I think it's maybe 1 or 2 millimeter rhinestone trim down the center of it. Once again using a small rhinestone button on the bottom and one of the toppers on the top. What's next? This one I did next. I've used this beautiful flower trim from Lavish Laces, and all I did was I got the foam ball, I cut the flowers off, I spaced them around and glued them on, let them dry, and then I came along with tiny little rhinestone buttons and put them in the center of every flower. And then once that was dry, I put glue in all the spaces and I added some distress glitter. Yes, the Tim Holtz Clear Rock Candy. It's very fine. I thought it was a bit chunkier than that, but it worked out quite nice. I haven't painted the bauble or anything. I put the glitter on just to cover up the fact that, it's a foam ball. And I quite like the way that one turned out. It'll add lots of sparkle to the Christmas tree. And then lastly, I used the beautiful rag paper from Lavish Laces, and I made some hearts. The hearts are made up of corrugated cardboard. So I've got a piece of foam board cut to size and then a piece of corrugated cardboard on either side of that just to add depth, and then I covered that with the rag paper. What did I do then? Oh, then I glued this cording all the way around. Then I added the rhinestone trim on both sides of that. And then I just looked at what cording I had, because I've used all the cording from Lavish Laces. And I found a piece of this one here, which is like a pearlized cord. So I've used that on that one. And that particular braid on this one, which is just a normal gimp. On that one, it's like an old white colour. And then from an old project I did many years ago, I had these jewellery pieces. It was a banner I had hanging in my room, but it got old. I had glass glitter, German glass glitter on it, and it had tarnished so much that it looked black, and I just didn't like the way it looked anymore. It's the humidity here. It's it tarnishes things to a great extent. So I saved all the jewellery pieces off the banner, and so I've put them on here, but I only had 3. So I've got one there, and one there. And then I had a little bag of offcuts of things, jewellery pieces. So on this side, I've just made my own. I just pieced together with broken bits something for that side. They will all have a bit of ribbon on them eventually. I just don't have the right size ribbon at this time. But if you look through your stash and you have a look at what you've got, you might be surprised how quickly you can come up with some really pretty decorations to make some baubles yourself. All this stuff, apart from the pins that I had to go out and buy, I already had. I was very fortunate that I've got quite a lot of rhinestone trims. But you don't have to use things like that. You can use that, that mesh stuff that you can get. You can cut that into strips and put it around, and it's just as effective. What is it called? This sort of thing. I forget what it's called. But you can cut this sort of thing into long strips, and it's just as sparkly on a Christmas tree. So thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this. I didn't do a tutorial because I have a few tutorials on very similar types of things in my Christmas playlist, which I will link in the description box below. And it might give you some ideas of things yourself. I mean, that's only cardboard and they're only foam balls. So, and the smaller the bauble you're making, the less, braids and things you need to have on them. So thank you so much for watching today, and I'll put a link to Lavish Laces in the description box below, where she sells these beautiful vintage braids and cording that I've used, and also the lovely book paper. So take care, everybody. Bye.